Forget brunch. These women are now heading into the woods for what's been called rage rituals. Let's watch.
Right now, I feel. What do you feel?
The rituals can come in the form of a weekend-long retreat, and the cost ranges from $2,000 to $4,000, or a one-day version goes for $222. One rage ritual leader, Mia Magic, explains their purpose. Take a listen.
Rage has been demonized and villainized, especially in the feminine. But our sacred rage is what has incited so many movements, created so much change on our planet. It is imperative that we allow ourselves safe spaces to release this fiery, hot emotion from within us so that it can no longer poison or toxify our internal emotional reality. Even though a volcano can be destructive in its eruption, ultimately that is also what creates.
Another rage ritual leader, Kimberly Helmus, told USA Today, quote, "When people do this and give themselves permission to release their anger, their capacity for joy actually expands. There are particular emotions that are accepted in the gender binary that we each need to feel. Men need to cry, and it's so healthy for men to cry, and women need to be able to get angry." I don't know, Jess, I feel like back in the day, you just like threw a pillow at the wall and you didn't have to pay $4,000 for the pleasure of doing it. But I will say, you know, outside of everyone, I think rightfully making fun of how absurd this looks, there is a serious problem among young women in terms of mental health issues. They're actually the fastest growing group in terms of the percentage of people who have a diagnosed mental illness. We've seen anxiety and depression rates really skyrocket among Gen Z women in particular. So I do think this is getting at the heart of a very worrying trend about the state of young women in our country. And I think we would do well to maybe try to dig into why exactly that's happening and why so many women are struggling with mental illness right now.
Yeah, I take a big issue with the idea that the rage is what's brought social change. I don't think anyone I know that is an organizer or, speaks truth to power is someone that does that work from a place of rage. It's from a place of righteousness, of knowing that there's violence being caused against the masses, whether it's a policy decision, a decision by a corporation or otherwise. A lot of the organizing is from a place of wanting peace and people to be treated nicely. It's not coming from a place of rage. And so I think there's a lot of women that have gotten involved in the feminist movements, the pro-choice movements, and see themselves as an activist. But if you just show up and you're angry and you have a sign and you scream for a while, yeah, you're occupying the street, you're, participating in the protest to some extent. But is it productive to just be angry? I just don't think so. And looking at these rituals, first instinct is, imagine walking through the woods that day on a peaceful hike and you stumble upon this. I mean, what an absolute nightmare. As someone who goes into nature for peace, to find peace within myself, very concerning to see this happening out there. But they're not hurting anyone, so I'm also kind of like, to each their own. If it works for you, only sticks were harmed in the process, I guess.
I guess so. There's a Free Press article by Olivia Reingold. She actually went to one of these retreats and talked to some of the leaders who were talking about their intentions for this. I guess they also do Zoom meetings where the women just yell into their cameras. But she says at the end of this article that one of the leaders told them that they can sign up for a 5-day retreat in France, and the cost is $6,500 plus airfare. So the women who are participating might think that this is a real thing that's helping them, but I'm getting the sense that this is a big grift to really take advantage of young women kind of struggling. The people who are putting these on are making a big chunk of change off of having these so-called retreats, and I think they know exactly what they're doing.
It does sound like a grift. How angry can you be if you have like $6,500 to go to France to scream for a while?
Yeah, in your Lululemon pants.
I don't know. I'm not saying money fixes every problem, but like, where's the rage coming from? There are a lot of working class people that can hardly make ends meet. They're not raging and screaming in the woods. Maybe they should be. I don't know if it will help, really. I come from the perspective of like, you're not bottling up your emotions to say, okay, this is an angry emotion. Where is it coming from? Why am I angry? I think that's really how you resolve your inner rage or the lack of peace inside yourself. I don't think you get to the bottom of anything by just screaming. Maybe it's one step in the process, but it also is very weird to have to spend thousands of dollars to just go be angry somewhere. Put that money into therapy. It's almost like you intentionally really want to ignore the problem if you're paying that much money to scream about it instead of talking through it in a healthy way.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about last week Harrison Butker's speech at Benedictine College and the reaction that was really a lot of fury and rage about him suggesting that some women or most women might be happy if they have families. And now that we're talking about this, I mean, I think it's relevant to suggest that a lot of these women who are going to these retreats tend to be women who are in their 30s to 40s, are single, kind of fit a certain stereotype. They're usually not religious, but describe themselves as spiritual. A lot of the quotes from the retreat leaders in this Free Press article talk about things like witchcraft and I don't know what the stones are called, crystals and astrology and things like that are sort of a substitute for maybe organized religion. And so I do think that there is something a little bit deeper going on here where there's this class of young women who, for whatever reason, are not fulfilled or satisfied with their station in life. And maybe it's harder for them to dig deep internally and kind of see where they went wrong as opposed to just screaming in the woods. But there's Mary Morgan on Twitter, who I follow and like quite a bit, pointed out that Taylor Swift recently trademarked Female Rage the musical to refer to her new album, and Anya Taylor-Joy calls herself a strong advocate of female rage as we see these rage rituals picking up steam. And what does this say about the broader pop culture, the state of pop culture surrounding young women now, especially as you have these two really wealthy, successful women like Taylor Swift and Anya Taylor-Joy participating in this trend of just being angry?
Yeah, the rage is a very low vibrational energy. I think most people that are spiritual in a way where there is organized religion there. I have friends, who are real witches. They practice the same kind of witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, paganism, that was practiced that can be traced back to ancient Europe. And Michelle Herron wrote a book, Elemental Witchcraft. And she's a great witch. She's the leader of a coven of witches in North Carolina. I used to live with her partner and with a bunch of people in this essentially spiritual property where we practice, we meditate together. But there's a difference between this kind of fad. It's almost like, oh, it's so cool to have crystals and do witchcraft and be spiritual. But without the intentional practice and without learning from people who have practiced it in an organized way for a while, kind of on your own. And I think anyone who's practiced Buddhism, I think because my parents read a lot of Buddhist monks' teachings and taught them to me, and then I ended up reading them, you learn that rage is not something to be celebrated. It is a low vibrational energy. And so this kind of spirituality that doesn't draw on any of the ancient teachings, doesn't draw on any of what the elders who have been practicing for many years know, it's kind of scary that it's turned into a fad because it's something that's actually very beautiful and can help a lot of people and has led me to live a good life. I would credit a large part of who I am to practicing Buddhism, mindfulness, and spirituality. And I think that is just so different from what I see on like witch talk of what people are up to.
Yeah, I think I'll pray for them. We're going to take a break and we'll be back with more Rising after this.